A senior Russian negotiator is in Washington, D.C. this week. He's meeting with top Trump official Steve Witkoff. Kirill Dmitriev is talking to Witkoff about strengthening relations between the U.S. and Russia. This is the aim to end the war in Ukraine. This is the first time a Russian official has visited the U.S. since the war started in 2022. So joining us now is Rebekah Koffler, author of Putin's Playbook and host of the Censored But Not Silenced podcast. Rebekah, thank you for joining us. First off, what do we know about Kirill Dmitriev? Who is he, and how high up the chain is he in the Russian hierarchy?
He is on the exact Russian hierarchy. He's not very high, but he is very close to Putin. His title is basically the head of the Russian Sovereign Wealth Fund, which is effectively a direct foreign investment fund. Kirill Dmitriev holds a lot of political capital, both with Putin and within the Trump administration, because he is actually educated in the United States, and he worked for Goldman Sachs, as well as he ran a private equity firm that is U.S. In Russia, that is backed by the U.S. And so Putin's goal is to use Kirill Dmitriev to repair the relations with the United States that suffered during the Biden administration.
Now, President Trump recently expressed frustration with Russian President Vladimir Putin over his criticisms of Ukraine's president. On Tuesday, Russia rejected the U.S. proposal for a ceasefire in the ongoing war. Are tensions flaring again between the two countries?
Absolutely. Russia is not interested in a ceasefire. Putin stated many times that a ceasefire would only give what we call a strategic pause in military doctrine to the opponent. Right now, Russia holds the upper hand both on the battlefield and from the overall correlation of forces and combat potential standpoint. Combat potential is a combination of the size of the armed forces, the size of the weapons arsenal, the military-industrial complex's ability to scale up production, and the defense economics. And so even NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte himself admitted that Russia produces in 3 months more military hardware than the entire NATO alliance, the United States including, produces in 1 year. So for Putin, there's no reason to conduct a ceasefire. He wants to finish the job because he doesn't really trust Washington. He doesn't trust Washington. He doesn't trust Trump any more than we trust him.
All right, interesting. Now we've got just less than 60 seconds left. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in Belgium talking to NATO allies and assuring them of U.S. support, but he's also demanding they pay more for defense. In the eyes of Russia, how does the relationship between the U.S. and Europe look now? Final thoughts.
It looks like the relationship is pretty much the same. NATO, the Russians are not looking at words, they're looking at actions. And the Russians know that the NATO in totality is probably not going to pay 5%. NATO actually had the entire 10 years to develop a counter strategy to Putin's playbook. I personally briefed NATO in 2013 September, just a month prior to Putin's invasion of Crimea. I laid out at the highly classified level Putin's thinking, Russia's warfighting strategy, and yet NATO decided that they're just going to throw Ukrainians into Putin's meat grinder, using them effectively as human shields because they were not willing to beef up their force posture and pay for their own security. So President Trump is now pushing them to finally step up.
All right, Rebekah, a lot of moving parts here. Thanks for joining us.
Of course.